true Freljordian welcome.
Yes, a true Freljordian welcome indeed. Welcome back to Voices of the Old Ones. I'm joined by my co-host Gomez.
Hello.
And it's been a while. It's been a hot minute.
It has.
We're just gonna go over all the stuff that we've missed since the last time we posted an episode, which would have been the release of Bandlewood before we even had Yordles.
Yes, because obviously we did a little bit before the release, like some of our thoughts and opinions and that, but then it came out and we've kind of left it for a little while since then. So both of us have been busy with other things in our our lives and such, and so sadly we didn't manage to get off our first opinions of actually playing the cards. But it's been a little while now, so I think we can give a better assessment of how the cards been going. But also, the World Championship happened during that time. And we've had like a little patch and that, but Worlds was insane. The decks that were brought were I feel out of all the tournaments that there have been so far, at least that I've witnessed personally, out of all the tournaments that have been so far that have been official, this has been the most craziest, number one, because they are the best people in the world, but two, one of the most diverse. I say diverse. There was obviously some overlaps with decks, but in general, quite a array of different decks. Consider normally whenever you see this, there's there's always the standards, and that there's always that this what I mean. There seems to be a lot more variety in decks.
Yeah, the fact that they announced the nerf on Twitter, the nerfs on Twitter, and said this will be the Worlds patch. I feel like it made a big difference to the amount of creativity we saw in people's decks, because it these are the best players in the world being told at what was reasonably the last minute when you think about it.
It was
that the best decks in the game basically off the table, practically deleted, or at least in the case of Azarelia, practically deleted. So we saw the fight or flight reflex of some of the best players in the world frantically trying to make the best lineup they could. With what was, when you consider it, a very short time frame.
I mean, it is true that in terms of going into Worlds, in terms of the actual the first thing, as you say, that patch I think came out 2 days or something before the first rounds were going to go through. And I said, it hit some really big decks, as you say, not only just Azir Aurelia, but because of the hit on Merciless Hunter and the Shape Stone and that those kind of cards really hit certain decks, like Akshan decks as well, and that obviously we did see some Akshan decks still in in Worlds, but it was just crazy that when you considered the pendulum of what's it called? You know the thing which I can't remember what it's called. Where it's one way or the other, it's extreme one way or extreme the other way.
The dipole, I don't know,
it's something along those lines. I can't remember. But the point is the fact that we had literally just been told before Worlds, okay, by the way, there's not going to be any patch updates in terms of nerfs and buffs until the 20-something of October.
Yeah, we're still waiting for our next patch currently.
Yes.
In theory.
Yes. So they told us, this is going way back. We got told, there wasn't going to be anything until then. And then, 2 or 3 days before Worlds, okay, we're making all of these changes to these really big powers.
Haha, psych.
Exactly. That was crazy. As you said, we got to see some of the world's better, or the world's best Runeterra players having to react to that fact. And I think that we saw some, unbelievable deck choices. We saw some unbelievable matches. I know that Janky's not actually watched all of Worlds yet, but I will recommend going back and watching, because there's definitely some matches, crazy change arounds with top decks and cards like that. There was literally number one of the ones you've definitely got to go is watch Margen Bay when he's against Impact, because he forgets to equate the impact damage going to his core as well, and he actually loses that match.
Oh no!
Because he does he just defends what's on the ball, thinking, that's gonna keep me alive with maybe a 1, 2, or 3 health or something, and he just leaves it to go to the next turn. So he's got things that he leaves on the back line that he could have put out there, and he doesn't. And then just the reaction of his face when he realizes that, like, that he's dead, amazing.
I had like obviously much lower stakes, but I had like literally the exact same thing the other day. Like I don't read cards nowadays because like
Who's got time for that?
I am so confident that I know what cards do just from memory.
Yeah.
That when someone plays a card that I don't see very often, sometimes it's my downfall.
Yeah.
What is the dumb new Minotaur, which is like when I enter something can't block, death rattle, make another one of me kind of in hand.
Yes,
that dude.
yes, that one. Yeah, it stops the weakest.
Dead ass forgot that it had overwhelm, and I just gave my opponent lethal when I had counter lethal the next turn. I blocked with a Spiderling when I had a full board of great blocks, and then like I just died. I was like, oh, I see.
Devastating. And yeah, so there's definitely some matches like that you've got to check out. As I said to you like before, like, so you might have to help me saying the name again. Is it Shiku or
Shihu, yeah.
Shihu is my hero for going into Worlds. They ended up getting 3rd place in the tournament, which is like is a great achievement. And the magnificence of the fact their lineup included like like no one expected that lineup out of going back to Trundle and Trendemir, Feel the Rush. There was also just like a classic Ezreal, which is Ezreal Draven, which like a lot of people have been changing Ezreal for Caitlyn, or they've been experimenting around with that deck a lot, but bringing the classic, saying no, this is all it needs to be. And then a Heimer list. That's why he's my hero. He got a Heimer list and took it to 3rd place.
It's a wacky Heimer list as well. Like it's running 3 of Sunburst, but only 1 hidden pathways, like the draw spell.
Yeah,
like there are some weird numbers here, but it is super cool.
It's the amazing that it's like basically everyone banned it.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't want to play against it either.
Exactly. I mean, I know that obviously Alan, who ended up winning, also brought he brought a wasn't that crazy a deck, but the crazy deck
Ezreal Vi Shellfolk.
Yeah, Ezreal Vi with Shellfolk.
Yeah,
and we got to see it once, and we never saw it again because
I've played some games with that deck. The turns last forever. Like you never run out of mana. Like post turn, like not, if you go into the late game, like you're on turn 9, you're in some kind of control mirror. Your turns last decades.
Yes,
it's unreal. It is a lot of fun though.
Yeah, the fact that we got to see it once, and like I swear that just for a couple of predicts and whatnot, like Alan ended up with, I don't know, like 6 or 8 mystic shots.
Yeah,
They ended up just throwing like, and the craziness of obviously that value with Ezreal doing damage in, like it's a really crazy deck. It's a really well made deck, which I believe it was Panda who made the deck originally.
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, which apparently like Alan was actually supposed to like mention that in his post game interview or his post thing interview, and he didn't. Then Panda was like, "I'm gonna have words with him afterwards." He didn't mention it, but said like Alan well deserved. Like I feel like as you said, Janky, that people have pretty much considered Alan to be the best Legends of Runeterra player, and this just cemented that fact. And if you watch the end of Worlds, or just watch Alan's progress the whole way through Worlds, it's very clear to see why. Because literally, that man, the patience and the way that he can assess every single thing to know what the best move is to do at that exact moment, like he basically like weighs up everything that he knows, because obviously like open deck list, he knows everything that's in the opponent's list, and so just goes, okay, right, what could they possibly use on me this turn? And his ability to wait and have the patience is crazy. Like,
yeah. People are generally quite upset about open deck list, and I think open deck list allows you to see the brain and the gears turning of like the best of the best players. Like when I do not like I don't really have a great reasoning for this, honestly. Might just be personal preference, but I love seeing open deck list tournaments because just I love it when players know exactly what they are risking whenever they make risky plays. Like whenever they go in for lethals, they know, well, in theory, they're the best players in the world. They know exactly what could be in their hand. They are weighing the risks and they're deciding what's worth it to like the exact. Like, it's not like they could have this. It's like they could have this, and they definitely could not have this other thing.
Hmm.
For example, well, that being said, created by Meta.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, there are Bandles. They did bring a lot of creation cards, looming telescope and the mayor. And there was so many different creation cards now. Whereby, you know what, it's impossible to play around everything. I swear that I've seen some people who can comment, especially let's say like some of the crazy RNG that can be. I think it was some of the best players I've seen on Twitter and whatnot. Like say like imagine not playing round like 3-mana judgment.
Yeah.
Imagine not being able to play around that. Foolish fool.
Should have played around it. Come on,
Exactly.
guys. Yeah. No, so one thing that I find like quite funny is that generally the people who brought, so I'm just looking at like the deck list now.
Yes.
The people who brought the most like solid deck lists throughout the history of the game, like the most standard deck lists, or well, I say the history, the safe choices like Scion Draven, Nami Zoe, and one of these people took discard aggro. That's super cool. But the really safe deck lists actually didn't make it very far at all.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think is really cool.
I know, right? That is great. Like when you think about it, when you look at the statistics, as you say, you'd think these are like, like box standard. These have been perfected for like ages, like in terms of the amount of time which people have put. Like every single time new cards come in, these archetypes get more and more refined. And the fact that they didn't even see to like that, I say that is glorious in of itself. The fact, like how it shows how varied and how viable loads of different things are, and obviously it all matters about the luck on the day, what you draw, and everything. But as you say, if you're a great player, then you just top deck what you need.
Exactly.
When needed. But
yeah. True that.
But the fact that even I do apologize, I cannot remember the name of the player who came second. He was an amazing guy from the Asian
Yamato, I believe.
Yamato, amazing guy from the Asian servers, and the fact that he got second with a darkness list, and that I think that he was probably one of the only people who brought darkness, because it's one of those kind of deck lists, right, whereby it relies heavily on those champions. If those champions go, then there is moves that it still has, because obviously there is the Sentinel who can still make the darkness hit at core, regardless of thing, but it still is probably one of the more riskier lists to bring. And the fact that he still got second and won so many times with that deck, just well done.
Yeah,
well done to him.
I really like the way he has like the numbers on the darkness list as well, and like I this might just be me not really like thinking about it, but I hadn't seen anyone running Rekindler in this list yet, which seems like a no brainer, but like it makes a really really big difference.
Yeah, well, definitely, yeah. Yeah, so that all went down. So Worlds happened, and I said like we got to see some of the best of the best in play, and it's one of those things whereby everything was like other than the beginning, because obviously there was some problems at the beginning. There was some problems with like the setup of the first tournament, like the first knockout thing. There was like some problems going on there. There was obviously the problems of them just giving you these random, which are like a nerfs and buffs, literally just before going in. But that aside, the actual thing when we got down to the which is like at the top of the top, it ran so smoothly. The casting was fantastic, and just the players with all their moves and everything. It was one of the best events that I've ever watched in terms of esports. And considering the fact that I watched Hearthstone for a very long time, esports wise, just like this has blown all out of the water. The crazy moments that happened and everything.
But it didn't have Brian Kibler's beautiful voice.
It didn't, and it also didn't have random Ragnar's 8 damage random.
That being said, Brian Kibler did do an LOR event, didn't he? Like earlier this year, or sorry, last year, didn't he?
He probably did when, it wouldn't surprise me if he did, because I think that they were just getting like, whoever they could who are big names. And because in fact, like Brian Clip is a really big name within Hearthstone. It would not
Oh, I,
surprise me if they got him in for a bit.
yeah.
But
But also, I love that Shihu made it so far through the tournament because like that is now like unequivocally the best player that I have ever beaten
oh, you've
with
actually beaten him.
well, I used to be quite high up the European ladder, and I love this story. I love this story because I was playing Demacia. I forced Demacia every season. I was playing Elites, and he was playing some really like creative list. I don't remember exactly what the list was, but it was something quite creative,
Yeah.
and I ended up winning with vanilla damage. And I went to join his stream to say GG, and I tuned him just in time for him saying, "Who even plays Elites nowadays?" Like this, I'm not taking that as a real loss. Elites isn't a real deck, or something like that. Yeah, because evidently he was playtesting, and he wasn't expecting that matchup, you know.
I mean, yeah, you never know what to expect when you're playing this test. You know, sometimes you do just hit some really random decks that you just weren't expecting. Um, but yeah, no. So like, it was an amazing event. They did so many good things. Apart from that, like obviously we've got the latest patch notes, which was patch 2.16, which we didn't get too much going on other than some bug fixes. But they did actually do something which the community was crying out for, which is return the old Teemo and Fizz skins, because obviously when they added Bandle City, they changed the skins for Teemo and Fizz and didn't give any like way of using the old skins at all. It was literally, no, these are the skins now, enjoy. So there was a big outcry that people were like, I say a big outcry. There was a
It
big
was medium outcry.
there
I
was a
was
medium
crying.
for the old skins, and so they've put those back in with this latest patch. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I might change the Teemo skin, but you know what? I'm gonna keep Sexy Fizz.
I like the new Fizz skin, but the thing like level 1 like foundation Teemo,
Yeah.
original level 1 Teemo is the perfect like uncanny valley between cute and psychotic. Like there's something very unnerving about that art, and I love it.
I can see. I
Yeah,
can
yeah,
see
like
what you
it,
mean.
that what's the word? Ensues? No, it imparts, I suppose, fear. Like it scares me anyway.
Hmm.
Because like the crease under his eye, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like his eyes are shut. It just looks like his eyes are void. Like, do you see what I mean? It looks like his
I,
eyes are open and
I,
just empty abysses.
I can I can kind of see what you mean. Now that you say and I look at it, I can kind of see what you mean. It's
Yeah.
quite a scary thing. But
Uh,
yeah, I said like we got those changes. We got some changes in terms of I said like a couple of bug fixes. One of the funniest bug fixes that they did change, which I do like, is when sharing keywords, stacks of impact should now grant like a consistently, which is why I was playing a deck today which was a give it all deck with impact units. Because if you use give it all, because I'm guessing it didn't work beforehand, because I never tried it beforehand, but just seeing that, somebody in my chat was like, try this deck out, you're going to love it. And I did, because obviously, if you throw down Tenor of Terror onto the board, he's giving like 2 units of impact. If you've got more units of impact, if you use give it all, then it stacks all like it
oh,
stacks the impact, including the impact which is on like so the unit already itself it gets given that back again
so
with
your
it. So
entire board gets impact 5 or whatever.
I mean, if you used Tenor of Terror twice, everyone would have 4 impact in
Yeah,
terms of
yeah.
Female Sugar. Yeah,
That's so cool.
I mean it's stupidly funny, and the deck list that I was given by one of my viewers, Unhitful Yoda, was magnificent as well because it includes a number of elusive units as well. So you have the option this or that. So either to go in with all these impact units and just buff up the impacts, or give yourself elusive, which so it works out really well. And it's a really nice deck. But I have to say I love that change in the latest bug things because that is a really funny deck to play.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed the bug, which is Siphoning Strike just didn't work with Katarina. I find it funny that Katarina is just such a forgotten champion that cards just don't work with her. This is like the sixth card that's been this is like actually dead ass the sixth card that has been released and doesn't function with Katarina. Like
Look,
every so often they're just like, oh yeah, that card.
I mean, it's nice to see her every once in a while, but let's face it, like, it's one of those kind of champs where there does need to be some tweaking potentially. It's I feel like it's her cost and the fact that she does rally, but it's such a loss of impact. And then sorry, the tempo that she keeps going back to hand, and you've got to pay that cost again and again. Like it's one of the things. She doesn't feel good in the early game.
Well, it's really weird, right? So she has an abominable win rate as like a 3 of, right? If she is your play around champion, she is like you're sitting like a 45% win rate. And the same is true of most Yasuo lists. Yasuo is like pretty garbage, right? But for whatever reason, 3 of Yasuo, 1 of Katarina, and 2 of like Swain or Zed or whatever are currently sitting on like 56% win rates with
Really?
over 100 games each, which is a pretty okay sample size for this early in the patch. Well,
I mean,
not that early.
I might need to go and have a little look at that.
Yeah, like the Katarina has always been like the weird one of Zesty include to give your deck like an extra 2% win rate for no real reason.
Katarina was just always that card where, to me, I think the most I ever played her was when Kent Shiraka was such a big thing in the when Kent Shiraka first entered the game, and it was such a big thing. Like Katarina, I think that was the most I ever played her, just because whenever Kench tried to eat her, it would like you'd just like laugh at your opponent in terms of that as they learn that them trying to eat her doesn't work.
That would work on me. That would work on me. I would never have made that connection.
Yeah, no, that happens so many times. It's like, they're like, throw down your champion, you fool! I shall eat you. If Tom Kench immediately goes, which it happens, the strike happens because it does say strike me. Like his whole thing says, strike me, and then I put you inside, and then so we just do the strike and then go back into your hand. Like, okay, that works. That's free damage in on. What's it all? 4 damage in if she levels.
Every veteran like Tom Kench player knows the first time they tried to eat an ephemeral unit. So yeah, but yeah, I would have fallen for that. I wouldn't have even thought of that.
It's weird the fact that one of the patch notes that we got from one of the previous patches was that they changed out that we didn't cover was that they changed Bone Skewer to no longer work with ephemeral units, because beforehand Bone Skewer did actually work with ephemeral. So say that something was ephemeral, you used Bone Skewer, it would strike the unit, and then before dying from the ephemeral, it would have Bone Skewer's other ability, which would then put it on top of the deck.
Weird.
Which so they changed and stopped that from happening. It doesn't happen anymore. The unit does now die. But yes.
Well, the flight still shuffles itself in, right?
That's what I was going to say. The flight still shuffles itself in.
Sure, whatever, right?
so there's a bit of an inconsistency in that, because literally I was playing it today against it, and somebody was using the flight. They had an ephemeral one. It shuffled itself back in. It's like, well, okay, consistency. Talking about consistency. Talking about consistency. Do you remember the out the way loaded dice deck, whereby if you use out the way the loaded dice, it becomes a permanent effect where every single time you do 1 damage, you nab a card.
Yeah.
Well, I was like, let's try this, but with Akshan's font of power, because obviously if you get to that point, the wording on it says draw 2 cards, and then for the rest of this round, your cards cost 1 less. So I was like, that'd be a permanent buff. It doesn't work.
Yeah, no. This is the problem with this is the problem, right? We've been playing this game for so long, and we're so out there with our deck designs that sometimes we just try things that Riot wouldn't think of. So so it's I wouldn't call that necessarily a bug, just so much as an inconsistency that would never matter to anyone except us.
Oh yeah,
the one that got me and made me ever so very upset was,
Yes.
and I think this is actually an inconsistency in wording. I think this is actually on me to know the difference between summon and play, but whatever. The Soul Shepherd says when I am summoned. Sorry, the Soul Shepherd says whenever an ephemeral is summoned, give it +1/+1. So if the
Yeah.
Soul Shepherd is ephemeral for, like, let's say you got it off of Stalking Shadows, it gives
Yeah.
itself +1/+1.
Right.
Now, I was very hoping, desperately hoping, in fact, when the spoilers were coming out, I had so many combo decks planned based around the fact that if I were to create a Mirror Mage, then the Mirror Mage would copy itself. I was very disappointed on day one to find out that like 6 of my decks didn't work.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, right? It's so disappointing. Like, it says whenever you play a created card or a created follower, summon a copy of it. But like, I guess I'm not. I guess there's a distinction between play and summon that we don't know.
I mean, no, there is a difference between play and summon.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, like as opposed to when has that distinction ever come up before with followers rather than spells?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but there is definitely a difference between it.
Yeah,
But
because
I wouldn't be able to go through it like
yeah, there's like,
in my
obviously
head.
there's the when I am there's play colon versus when I'm summoned, but like I was kind of hoping that the wording would line up the way I wanted, and it didn't.
Sadly not. But also what? But if you say that you play a mirror mage and then you copy the mirror mage, like say that you were to play the mirror mage, then throw down like fading memories or why is that the one that goes
Oh
to my
yeah,
head?
for sure. Then you'd have 3.
Yeah. So I mean that does make, because if it does say that it says the unit has to be played, then yeah, I can kind of see why that doesn't work. I do
Yeah,
apologize, buddy, but I
yeah.
can see
I suppose.
it's sad.
I saw the Soul Shepherd thing, and I got really excited, and then it didn't work the way I hoped, and then I reread the cards, and I was like, yeah, I guess kinda.
I guess you get me this time, right?
You know what, Riot? Fine. I'm not happy about it, but fine.
It is upsetting because that would have been a really funny combo, but yeah,
Yeah.
these things are the way that they are. There are certain cards which I think, like, Zephyr Sage doesn't work on themselves, does it anymore?
Not
Like,
anymore. Not
they
anymore.
changed. I mean, there are certain cards which potentially shouldn't work on themselves. Like, for example, the one that we're seeing the most of it at this moment in time is Lumen Telescope. Gives you Lumen Telescope.
What,
Gives
so
you...
yeah, that's the question. How many looming telescope? Like, how deep have you gone down the telescope loop? Like, I have so far managed to loop telescope. Like, I think the highest chain I've gotten is 3, but like I have seen my opponents go like 6 telescopes deep.
Yes,
It's
that's what I
it's
mean.
disgusting.
Especially if Mayor's on the board, meaning that they all cost
Yeah,
1.
literally. It's like it's always the poppy players that play Mayor and then get 9 telescopes deep, so they just have constant 2-1s to fill the board, or at least that's what it feels like.
Hmm. I feel it's happening less than what we're seeing it, but like, or like, you know, like in your mind, like
Yeah. No,
less than what you're seeing in your
look,
mind,
well, I'm not trying to say that there's 100% chance of looming telescope being offered, but the math
but
checks out.
it's the equivalent of just like in the past, Omen Hawk. They always had it in their hand.
Oh yeah.
Every time they had Omen Hawk to begin with, and that would immediately go into another Omen Hawk.
Can you believe that we're in a timeline where Omen Hawk didn't get nerfed, but it's somehow not in every deck anymore? Like, I find it so unbelievable to believe that Omen Hawk got power crept.
It used to be such a good like one drop, right?
It was
And it just...
based back in the day. There was only 2 good 1-drops. There
True.
was because aggro didn't really exist yet.
Hmm.
So there was only the 2 birds. And then later on then Saboteur and what's his face, the 3/2, when Nox and Forever came out, basically a bunch of other 1-drops became better. But before aggro was viable, there was Challenger Bird and what's its name? Silver Fleet Hawk.
Yeah,
Something?
so, Fleet Feather Tracker.
Yeah. And Omen Hawk. Those were the only good 1-drops because it with the mana float system, it takes a lot to be a good 1-drop in this game.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
But it's crazy now when you think about this, like how much the game, like, because obviously we've been playing this for so long. It's crazy to think like how all the different cards, the strength and weaknesses of like how they've with new cards coming in, just the massive changes that we've seen go on. It is crazy. I feel that Bandle City has probably been the most we've seen, like, the crazy diverse and changes. Obviously, there was a number of different bugs that needed to be fixed as well. Mostly, what's weird when you think about it, right? The lucky find buff that got also the lucky find problem with just the fact that it just continuously kept with shell folk.
Yeah.
It kept happening. My question is, in its original form, Lucky Find, I think, would have been okay. Because what happened was when Lucky Find first came into the game, for everyone who doesn't remember, it actually used to, you'd go into Lucky Find, 3 options, you'd pick one of them, and then you'd get that 0 mana spell in your hand as being, so say that it was like Fearsome or Overwhelm, whatever, you'd get that in your hand, and then you'd play that again. It got nerfed because it ended up being unbelievably crazy with Lee, because though, like,
Yeah.
0 mana, they just counted up his spells because it counted as 2 spells for 0 cost. Like, those just rocketed up Lee's spells crazily to get him to the point of kicking people. And also, it used to work, it would make 2 hits for Heimer, like, it would make, like, 2 0 cost bots for Heimer. It would make, like, what's his face? Victor would get like the augment off, or any kind of augmenty cards would get like the thing off twice. So they nerfed it so that it then became the second that you chose, it just happened. But in its first original form, I think it would have been okay.
I suppose, yeah, I guess.
Because
it would have had a myriad of other problems, but yeah.
it would have had some other things. But what I mean is that it would have been, you would have chosen, and then you would get that spell again in your hand rather than Lucky Find, which is then around, like, does that what I mean?
Yeah. I think you're overestimating Lee Sin's power. I think Riot were actually just afraid of what it could do to Assembly Bot.
I mean, yes, no, you're absolutely right.
They've got to keep him down.
Assembly Bot is always what they think about when they.
Yeah, every time they release a card, they're like sweating, like it's gonna be too good.
But yeah, so which like that obviously had to get changed. The change that had to happen with Arsenal just had to be done. The fact that it just became a permanent spell shield, like I'm untouchable.
Arsenal is still like crazy good though. Like I really love Arsenal control. Like the Xerath deck. It's so much fun.
It is basically they get to turn 8 and it's done. Unless you've got some way of targeting and then, like, because obviously, like, most of the time, if enough landmarks have gone, that's definitely going to have spell shield. You need to have a way of hitting it and then hitting it again with something else, like either like mini morph, vengeance or something, but you need that first initial ping to then hit that with, and those are really costly removals. And that's not just saying that they don't just go on to the next turn. Aha! I throw down another one.
I was playing Darkness into someone else who was playing Ziggs, and I didn't actually expect to see an Arsenal in the deck because I thought it would be more of an aggro deck, but this was like early days, or earlier anyway. And I got it with the Vile Feast Minimorph, and it has to be the most powerful unit I have mini-morphed, because it had Impact 24. they had done the Hourglass on it, so it had re-entered. And, like, that has to by far be the most, like, I was erect for hours.
I mean, it was crazy the amount of things that have happened with Arsenal when you think about it now. Like, for a card which I think most people, when they first saw it, was like, oh, that looks cute. I mean, it might. I mean, first initial like things like, oh, that looks good. We'll see how it goes. Bearing in mind that at the time, landmarks weren't as since this card has entered the game, and obviously Xerath has entered the game, the play rate of what is the Rolling Stones or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah.
The play rate of that is
Unraveled Earth. Yeah.
The play rate beforehand was like nothing, and now suddenly skyrocketed.
Remember when they first released Talia and all of her associated cards, and she was absolutely dreadful and like a genuine joke? And then they released Malphite, and the deck didn't get any better, so they had to buff everything.
Yeah.
Riot should have actually just went, guys, we swear, just like wait a couple more months.
Just wait, just wait. just wait.
Listen, guys, don't worry about it.
I swear that sometimes because they know what's coming in the future, like they put cards out knowing what else is so like because they're probably crafting cards and that months and months in advance because we need to they need to have people who are in there testing, they need to have people who are in there doing the artwork, they need to have this, that, and the other. So cards are massively already potentially. Riot's already got like the next 3 expansions after this fact, on the cards and pardon the pun, like already think. So they're that far into the future that when they're testing things, they're going, okay, this all works out together nicely and that. But then the way they're testing it, they're not seeing what's what's current. 100%, you know what I mean? I swear that happens sometimes, and that's why we see certain things that have happened, like nerfs that then get reverted because, for example, Bilgewater, a lot of their cards and that got nerfs that were which it reverted. So at the time, people were like, "This is crazy, Bilgewater! Look, how can you have this Riptide Rex with all these things? This is impossible." Looking at it now,
yeah,
you can imagine
give him his cannon back.
Exactly,
Give him his fucking cannon back.
You can imagine, yeah, that's what I mean. You can imagine just having all these cards in because, at the time, we didn't have anything along the lines of Rite of Negation. Like Rite of Negation just shuts down all of Riptide Rex's cannons.
I love the idea of Riot employees in their ivory tower are like, haha, those damned fools. They do not know that in a couple of months it will be the Garen meta. So, Garen Lux, it will be everywhere. Those damn idiots.
Exactly, they just don't know.
Garen Tryndamere, fuck them.
But yeah, I feel like that's how they sometimes do things is that they are looking at things too far into the future that they're not seeing that just by putting this, because obviously the way they break up expansions, you get a little bit of expansion and then you get a little bit more of the expansion and then you get a little bit more. Like the way that's broken up means that there's certain things where certain things seem weak or certain things seem too strong, but altogether it seems right.
Yeah.
But we don't get the altogether picture until much later on down the line.
Yeah. I'm just looking at all the champions now, and it's I'm just looking at Tryndamere, bro, power creep did you dirty. No one, sure, Tryndamere is in Field of Rush, right? But that is not really playing Tryndamere for its merits. That's playing Tryndamere for cheese. Vanilla playing Tryndamere has to be one of the most devastating feelings in this game. He's such a loss of tempo. He is worse than most followers.
I mean, it's one of those things, right, where you have to play him for the atrocity move, right? That is his. It sounds terrible, but that's his best use.
Yeah, the meme from Rick and Morty. What is my purpose? You go into the enemy nexus. Oh god.
But it's a shame. You're gonna see this with loads of champions, though. There's loads of champions which you no longer really see anymore. You don't really see their archetypes anymore. There was a post on Reddit where somebody was saying it was a couple of days ago or so of somebody who was new playing the game, just say it's a great game, but I can't play this game anymore. They really need to nerf Daybreak because I just keep going into Daybreak text and it's so OP with them getting their buffs and things. You're speaking about looking at it from people who play something. What do you mean? There's still people playing Daybreak?
I was playing League of Legends with a friend of mine that's just gotten into Legends of Runeterra, and they've when I say just gotten into, I mean 3 months of playing. Right? Yeah. They're a long-time League of Legends player and a medium new Legends of Runeterra player, and we were playing and he got killed by Diana in mid lane, and he was like, "Yo, Diana would make a really cool card. I can't wait for them to add Diana to Legends of Runeterra." And I was like, "Bro, yeah." While they're at it, they should probably add Nocturne, and that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that would be cool.
I love Nightfall. Nightfall is so much fun. It has it has an okay win rate, but it has a play rate of 1%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's same with any kind of card game. Archetypes rise, they fall, new cards get added to them, and things change up. Um, there's only a few decks which kind of stay like I think discard has been probably the longest running archetype,
It
which
has
has
been completely reimagined, though.
it's been completely reimagined. But I mean, like in terms of as an archetype, discard as being one of the top decks.
Yeah,
So it's
true.
it's completely reimagined with these crazy new cards that were given to it in terms of what it can do now.
Yeah,
But
so with patch 2. What was it, 2.14?
something like
They deleted Jinx. It was pretty rude of them.
who needs Jinx when you got Scion, buddy? But I mean, and, like Scion's got crazy abilities himself if he doesn't get mini morphed.
Yeah, Scion has some crazy packs. Like, does Jinx have crazy packs? I think not.
But I think that's the longest running archetype, which has managed to sustain somewhat okay. Well, I say somewhat okay. It's managed to stay within meta relevance the whole way through discard.
Yeah.
A lot of other things, as I said, like you've seen the rise and fall of so many different things, but maybe one day Daybreak might return for all we know. Like all it takes is adding a new, like having like the Shadow Owl's equivalent for Nightfall, having a different region which also runs those cards. If it works well enough with them,
I
it's got.
I think what Daybreak needs is a Nightfall card that supports Daybreak effectively. Because the problem with Daybreak is that you need to play actively. You need to be always making the first move, and like the best version of Daybreak is the version that runs Relentless Pursuit because it gives you something to do after you've already been forced to develop. Like you can go, you can essentially go again, and you can play responsibly, kind of by cheating the combat system. But something that would really help Daybreak would be a Nightfall card designed to support the Daybreak deck.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
at least in my opinion.
I can see that because it is you have to play this card first.
Yeah,
Having something to back it up as being a thing, or yeah, I don't know what they'd have to do for Daybreak to actually be like proper.
the bird was a step in the right direction. Like our new Daybreak card is like one of the strongest Daybreak cards to exist. So
It's true. It did see a bit of a rise in Yasuo coming back for a little while.
every single set has a rise in Yasuo and then a steep fall in Yasuo. Like people need to stop trying.
It's whenever a new stun card enters the game, it's like, oh, it's his time.
It's his time.
Finally.
This time for real. I swear.
I mean, you can't give up, man. You can't give up every time. It's just you got to give it a go, right?
Giving up would imply that I tried in the first place. When I saw Event Horizon, I didn't move, like I didn't twitch an eyebrow. I assure you, I did not think for 1 second it was Yasuo's time.
They just need to add a few more stun cards to ban.
I'm reasonably surprised, to be fair, that Event Horizon doesn't see more play just as a good card, but I suppose it's just not good enough.
It's one of those things, right, where it's a 5 cost. It is fast speed like stun, but it really does depend on because it has to be 3 or less attack or 2. I can't remember what
2 or less.
2 or less attack, which at some parts it can be like if you were playing, but potentially if you were playing something that was consistently getting down the opponent's attacks, like if you were playing like Shurima's abilities of causing attack to go down,
Yeah,
maybe, but because then you could like use that going into a stun and then they
shout
can't
out
block.
to your newest video.
Exactly.
Yeah.
no, but that's not using that combo. It's just like fearsomes in general. But something along those lines, whereby you are forcing the opponent's attack down, so that then that stun is going to be it. But that's 5 mana plus whatever you've got to do to get the attack down in the first place. Like,
Yeah,
it's quite a lot to do, and that's not talking about buffs that could be in the game, which we do obviously know there's a lot of cheap buffs in the game, which then they could then get past it.
I don't know. I
So
was kind of like imagining the previous meta. I didn't realize the meta would evolve like this, where all of the aggro decks have infinite resources. Like the Bandle City has drastically evolved aggro. Like this most recent set, we either have Scion, which draws faster than any control deck, like
yeah,
goes through its deck at startling rates.
yes.
Like more like or rather, I suppose Jinx drew very quickly as well, but they hold it holds onto the resources in hand. It's never hellbent.
I mean, I feel that the craziest add to the deck has been Lost Soul. Just
Yeah. Oh
the
yeah.
continuous. I don't run out of cards. Like this is now a card which will remain in my hand forever. Like
This is a permanent addition to my hand. Yeah.
exactly, and especially when they get three of them going, just like they're just continuously just laughing as they put these things on the board. They've got challenge. It's quite a good stat line for a challenge unit as well. And can
Oh
just
yeah.
knock your stuff away, go back into hand and go, okay, well, I'll discard that with Rummage or I'll discard that with a Draven Axe. Like, I've got this continuous machine.
I heavily assume that Lost Soul will get a nerf at some point. Maybe not the next patch, but probably the patch after that. It is not oppressive, but it is very, very good.
Oh, very good. Very, very good for what it does. So maybe a change on the cost, so it's not 4 cost the one that comes out of it. Maybe like 5 cost, or like even because
Yeah.
that it's not. It still does what it's doing, but it is not as easy to get out and do loads of them multiple times on
Yeah,
later.
its stat line is way too good for a card that is essentially permanent in hand.
Yeah,
But the what I was saying about aggro decks is apart from Scion, there's also the advent of these new Nox, Bandle City or Bilgewater Bandle City decks that win through slow burn. People are calling it like poke damage, and they are constantly refilling their hand with cards like Concologist, and it's a weird time to be playing burn. A very good time though, like
yeah.
exceptional win rates.
It can still it can burn you down, but at the same point, it can still keep hand advantage.
Yeah,
Which
it is.
it's always been Burn's downside. Is I play a burn deck. I know that my plan here is I get things, throw them on the board, and throw them direct and try to smoke face without like I know at some point I'm gonna run out of steam because I'm putting everything into it, and it now Battle City's like, look, you know that little bit about running out of steam with your hand. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Like you as a burn player will sit down opposite a like Sejuani Gangplank deck, and you will start bricking it because you're not going to be able to kill them fast enough. And that's just so weird to me.
But I mean, I think that Battle City has just introduced so many things. I feel like we will see certain nerfs and whatnot because I mean, there are some cards which give far more value than what their cost is.
Oh yeah.
So I do believe that like there's a few cards that are probably going to get hit at some point in the near future. We've also bearing in mind, like, there's been so many people saying, and this is only the first bit of Bandle City. We've
Yes.
still got 2 more hits of Bandle City, and people are already saying the power level of these cards is going to be quite insane. So I do feel like we are going to see more nerfs and that coming in. And, like, I feel that at some point, I know that I say this every now and again, but it's going to be a factor at a point. The cycle's going to start to happen at some point, which we probably will end up seeing, like some of like the lesser powered cards, or the cards that just can't keep up anymore. Just like those cycle out, and then we might get like new editions of them that have been brought up to like in the future, like that have been brought.
They
up to the
rotate
same.
out Tryndamere and bring in Tryndamere's Chad cousin Olaf. It's the same card, but he costs 6.
Maybe.
No,
You never know, right?
one thing about this expansion that I like very much. So remember when I think it was FizzTF was like a big problem when we were saying on the podcast that there is always going to be a most powerful deck. If a most powerful or most popular deck tilts you out, then maybe card games aren't for you. Like there's never not a deck that will make people angry. This expansion has the least rage-inducing, most rage-inducing deck of any expansion. Zoe Nami, at least in my personal experience, isn't that bad, and it is the most popular, most in air quotes rage-inducing deck.
It's one of those things whereby if you know what to hit at the right time, Like, because right, that whole deck, it's crazy, but that whole deck's basic thing is that it wants to make sure that it is keeping their elusives on the board, and that those are the things that Nami is buffing. Nami is the number one problem in that deck that you have to deal with. Like, if you've got a way of dealing with her in terms of removing her from the board, make sure that you do.
Yeah,
because
quickly.
because she is the one who is increasing their stats unbelievable. Now, I know that at some point Shelly comes into the mix and is then also buffing them. That's much more later on down the line. Like, Nami's the one that you have to hit. Yep, sure, Zoe's there, and Zoe is also an issue, but it is Nami's the one that you need to deal with, because I feel like I see a lot of people hitting the Zoe or whatnot when it should be hitting the Nami on that thing, because they also need to make sure that they are keeping the elusives as being like, because that deck runs I can't think of the name of it right now. Double Trouble
Yeah.
and cards like that. You weirdly have to keep those cards alive. Like, you need to be looking at it and thinking, yeah, sure, these things. Like, I feel that some people look at it and think, oh, finally, some cards that I can trade with because they're not elusive. I must trade with these cards. You kind of need to keep those cards alive, because those cards then become the thing which Nami starts buffing as, but like, because obviously, because Nami only buffs the weakest.
Yeah.
So if you keep those cards, you are removing buffs from their elusives at that time. But obviously, that's the main thing you need to be doing, is trying to remove Nami. And if you're running anything which can like completely disrupt elusive play anyway, then you should be fine. We've been seeing, like, Caitlyn's bombs, like flash bombs coming in can do some problems, like create problems from, especially if you're in Noxus with that, to be able to throw in Flock or whatnot that needs to be done for removal. Like, it's not as bad a deck as people are making it out for, as long as you work around it and know what to hit.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like, as the most obnoxious deck goes, we've had... Oh, it was a Zero Relia. It was a Zero Relia. Yeah, that was the deck that we were talking about.
Oh, that was the deck.
Yeah.
I mean,
FizzTF, a Zero Relia, Nox P&Z, etc., etc. The most obnoxious deck of the day. This is, in my experience, or in my opinion, rather, the least rage-inducing one we've had.
this is the one whereby I think that there are more answers to it. Like,
Yeah.
in terms of, you... Like, a Zero Relia had such a good curve and had such a good thing where literally it just got to a point where they just had to keep throwing things out. If you can't... And what you need to also remember is that deck also has the way of protecting their champions through recall. So
Yeah.
you'd go for trying to remove those champions, and they go, haha, recall. This deck doesn't really have ways that they can, like, as long as you have the right moves, this deck has got no way of them really protecting their champions other than
Sunblessed Vigor.
buffing their stats up. What I mean is, like, removing them completely from play, so that they're, that's what I mean. So
yeah, just if you have the leniency to do so, just pretend Nami has 5 health, not 3, and then you'll usually kill her.
Yeah, because it's also knowing what that deck runs, right? Like, that deck is going to be running the why can't I think of the name of the spell which gives 2 health in Tarkon?
Sunblessed Vigor. That was it.
Yeah. So as long as you know that you're playing around those cards that you know are probably going to... Like, there was somebody... I love when people don't actually remember how the hell Sunburst works. And there was actually somebody in Worlds who forgot how Sunburst worked. Because, there was, like, you put it down and then they buff it up. Like, I had somebody today, I used Sunburst on top of their Nami, and they immediately threw 2 of those vigors on top of her. And I was like, you do realise she's going to get a silence? Dead off the board, immediate concede. Because they just used 2 of their spells, which are really good at keeping things alive.
That is so sad. That's so sad.
To be fair, Sunburst is such an underplayed card. It doesn't surprise me that people... Like, it doesn't actually... Like, people were saying that I can't believe that this person at Worlds made the mistake. And it's like... It's such an underplayed card. I can see why they made that mistake.
Yeah, once you've been playing for a really long time, you don't read cards anymore.
You
just kind of assume you know what they do.
You just think, 6 damage. Okay, right, I get around 6 damage.
Yeah.
You forget about that little other bit of text.
Yeah. So,
But,
the question I have for you is, what would you say is your favorite champion to come out of the new expansion?
ooh. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's a good question.
Oh, thanks very much.
Um, it's weird for me because having played around with so many of them, I love Ziggs. If I'm gonna like, if I had to say like off the top of my head, like Ziggs is kind of I love what he can do and all the different landmark removal stuff which is there with him just continuously posing the threat of 2 damage. Plus, if you can then like combo him to give him overwhelm, which if you're running him in a deck potentially with Tally and using that overwhelm card can be really funny having them both with overwhelm. I have seen like Sunny run a deck which is running Ziggs and Swain and using that overwhelm card to give Swain overwhelm as well as Ziggs like that.
That's very cool.
Yes, it's a really good deck. I would recommend checking it out. But there's certain things like that that I really love about Ziggs. But then again, I love Senna because Senna's ability of making certain spells fast speed is stupidly ridiculous as well. Like I think Senna's probably the one I've built with the most because different decks of making her make Lux's spell go fast speed, making go hard, making go hard go into pack your bags like at fast speed in numerous different decks, like especially with the catalog of regrets. It's stupidly funny. I even made a Noxian version of which I made like a Noxian version whereby throwing down Captain Farron and then getting both his decimates at fast speed is stupidly funny to do 8 damage to somebody's core, and they can do literally like, other than if they're playing like what's his face, Rite of
Hell yeah.
Negation
Yeah.
the Night.
Yeah.
They've got very little way to get around 8 damage to core. Like there's so many different ways of utilizing her ability of making slower speed spells fast that I do really like Senna.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair. I don't really know what the answer is, I'll be honest with you. I asked him, I don't really know what the answer is. It's definitely not Nabi, Tristana, Ziggs, Poppy, Veigar, Zerath, or Senna. It might be Zerath, actually. Caitlyn, Zerath, or Sion. I couldn't tell you exactly who. I've had a lot of fun climbing with Caitlyn. Like, I think she's been my go-to for ranked play at the moment. Zerath is actually just such a fun play style.
Yeah.
I really enjoy his deck, even though his design is really boring.
I can agree with that.
And Sion's art is just so bitchin'. I love Sion's art.
I mean, I would say Sion, but I have had too many. Number one, I've had too many experiences on both sides of making him into a little blue seal that that's just I can't.
Yeah,
play
that was the
Sion,
art I was talking about. Obviously.
Oh, okay. Sorry, that's my bad.
He's so cute.
He's so cute.
Little wee Sion.
Exactly.
Well, I saw an absolutely excellent shit post on Twitter, and I'd love to quote the person exactly, but I forget who posted it. Where they were like, they need to nerf. What's the card actually called? Minity or Minitize or
Minimorph.
Minimorph. Yeah, they need to nerf Minimorph. The card is just absolutely like unacceptable in its current form. 3/3 is just too much of a stat line. It has to turn them into a 1/1. Like, which is beautiful. Good bait and switch.
Yeah. I still have no problem with the card itself.
Oh yeah, totally. Same.
Personally, I really think that it's healthy. Like, I know there's a lot of people who would disagree with me.
Yeah.
But I really think that it's healthy that we have this kind of burst speed removal in the game because, let's face it, like any other thing it can easily be countered. And this just like shuts. And it's the fact that you know that your opponent has it. They've only got 3 of them in their deck, unless they're doing some weird kind of like creating more situation. And it costs 6. 6 is a lot to force out of an opponent to put down, and it really only punishes somebody who's going in for a all-in-one win con condition, rather than if you spread a board, they can only hit one target. So if you've got a good enough board, then you're not really worrying. But if you're putting everything into one, you're putting all your eggs into one basket, then all the eggs get smashed.
Yeah, I find myself in positions often, if I'm playing aggro decks, where I think to myself, I've been going like all in this entire game. They have been answering my threats. I've got them down to 3 cards in hand. I'm still on 12 cards, obviously, because I'm playing aggro in current year.
Yes.
Yeah, that like I'm playing against control. I have pretty much endless resources because of the way Burn plays at the moment. They're down to like 3 cards in hand. I am often thinking to myself, I hope at least one of those is Minimorph. I hope they are stuck on Minimorph.
Yeah. Because it is one of those cards. It does cost a lot. It does an amazing job, but it does cost a lot to get there. And I just think that I've got no issues with
Yeah,
it as a
not at
card
all.
personally.
Not at all.
But I know there's a lot of people who do.
I am actually, like, if we're just talking about the state of the game as a whole, I am very impressed with the meta right now. It is unreal diverse. Like,
Oh yeah, massively so.
I know we say all the time that Legends of Runeterra has like a absolutely insane range for tier 1, tier 2 decks. Like, just a huge number of decks come under that umbrella of like ranked playable when compared to MTG or Hearthstone or
Oh yeah, massively.
But I'm now comparing it to itself. Like, this patch has under that umbrella more decks than fucking ever. Just because of the number of cards that are in the game and the number of strategies that are still playable from previous expansions.
It is such a double-edged sword in a weird way, in terms of just like devil's advocate, talking from both perspectives. I love it because I love seeing different cards and I love seeing different strategies all at work and not like queuing into the same thing again and again and again. In which let's face it, when Azir Aurelia was a thing, it was again and again and again.
Oh yeah.
But there are people, obviously, who are like, I believe, if you ask a lot of the top ranked players, a lot of people who have struggled this season because normally it is just okay. I queue up with my deck. It is pretty much standard. I know what I'm going to be facing because it is most of the time going to be probably what I'm playing, or it's going to be only like one of 3 decks which are mainly ladderable, and loads of people have been having problems because the diversity is so much like, I know how to play against this. What the hell is this?
We are playing matchup roulette more than ever. Like, you will rank into things and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, but I love that. I love, like, so for example, I've just searched Mobalytics by Nautilus. Deep makes up less than like a fraction of a percent of the meta right now, but it has a 53% win rate. And that's over a sample size of, hold on, it was a couple thousand. So people are still playing Deep, and it still has a positive win rate. Let me search by Diana, that champion that doesn't exist. Again, fraction of a percentage, 300 sample size, 53% win rate. Every strategy still exists.
I'm not complaining. Like, personally, I love it. I'm just saying from a competitive player's standpoint, they don't like it because they want it's so hot, especially with ranked being the only way to qualify for events.
Yeah,
it is
true.
I can understand from their point of view how it is really hard for them at this moment in time because of the diversity. But I said, personally, I love it because I just love playing crazy things and whatnot. But I can also see the other flip side of the coin and why we're getting a bunch of competitive players saying they're not liking the current meta at this moment in time.
Just do what the rest of us no-lifes do and play with a 60% win rate, play 3,000 games, and then make your way to the top of the ladder. Like,
exactly.
What's wrong with that? If you can hold on to that 51% win rate and you have no life, then you're practically rank 1.
True.
The maths checks out.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, but all kinds of decks that like are not really, you wouldn't really call them meta. Feel the Rush, Twisted Fate Swain, even Thresh Viego, Sivir Tahm like Shen J4. There are so many tier 2 decks, a crazy number.
Oh, yeah,
Frostbite, to name like literally 1/10.
I mean, you could literally go on for hours and hours and hours. And sadly, we do not have the time for that because I think that we should draw to a close. But I hope that everyone enjoyed listening to us. Bear in mind, obviously, if you are listening and you're on the EU Shard, me and Janky are going to be running a tournament on the 2nd and 3rd of October, whereby EU Shard, it's Bandle Bonanza, some really fun rules in there. Hopefully the link will be somewhere around and whatnot. Like, potentially it will probably just be all going down on the Sunday because there's I can't remember what my player list count. Basically, if we don't get a certain amount of players, we won't do the Swiss round on the 2nd.
Yes.
But we'll just go into the Sunday double elimination. But It should be a lot of fun. And if you want to get involved with the £150 prize pool, then why the hell not if you're an EU shard?
Yeah, because there's not very many people that have signed up already, your chances of winning go up, and also the prize pool like gets split among less people, so you have a better chance of like banking out on actual like real palpable amounts of cash.
This is very true. This is very true. So if that sounds like fun, why not consider getting involved? And yes, thank you so much for listening. You can obviously catch us if you're not listening to us on which is YouTube or no, the other places to see us, which is YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, like all these different things. So you're obviously listening to us through one of them. But if you like,
I thought you were about to like. So if you're listening through YouTube, you obviously don't know that you can listen to us on SoundCloud and on Spotify. If you're listening to us on SoundCloud,
I will admit, my brain did not work out how I was going to say that sentence before it randomly started coming out of my mouth. But there are all these different ways of listening to us. So if you prefer one method or the other from whatever way that you've managed to get to listening to us, then know that the option is available to you. Shut up, Janky!
Never change.
Exactly. And yes, obviously you can catch all of our content. Both me and Janky do like, I know that Janky less so stream and do YouTube content, but if you want to catch that, you can catch our respective links down below. But thank you so much. And until next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.